which means nobody can touch her. That really doesn't stop her from looking like a set piece from The Last of Us. Now, as we pass right by it, though, you'll be able to notice a concrete box all the way in the back, and that concrete box is what is holding Carroll Avenue Railroad Bridge standing upright. She is a perfect example of Chicago-style bridges, and that is a trunnion bascule bridge. Trunnion meaning pivot point, bascule meaning seesaw. All those words together mean that that particular bridge moves like this. All other bridges here in Chicago are double leaf trunnion bascule bridges, which means that they move like just like that. Now, Chicago has 55 bridges. 37 of our bridges are in fact movable. We are the second city in the world with most movable bridges, following Amsterdam, bringing a whole new meaning to the word second city, and yet, well, here we are. Let's keep on talking about buildings though, shall we? Coming up currently right in front of us and over here to our right hand side, this building that kind of looks like a tuning fork, it also kind of looks like a Y. This is 150 North Riverside. Now 150 North Riverside kind of looks like a tuning fork, right? It has a particularly small base. It has a 30-foot wide base to be exact. Now why is that? He's dealing with two very specific things. Number one, notice over there to your right hand side those circles. Those circles are exhaust fans for both Metro and Amtrak trains that are running underneath these buildings and behind that wall right there to your right. So the base of the building cannot start too far back because why? The trains! We'd be ruining somebody's morning commute. We couldn't do that. And if you're like, that's okay, Liam, how about they just push the building closer to the river? Yeah, I guess, but Chicago actually has a zoning law, a 30-foot setback that allows for that space in between to remain for the public. Think, for example, of the Riverwalk. That's kind of what this area over here to your right-hand side is trying to replicate. So notice, as we pass underneath Lake Street Bridge over here to your right-hand side, that 30-foot setback in action. People passing to and from without officially being on the property. But notice how the building itself is still taking advantage of all the possible airspace. Look up and see a reflection of our boat on the side of the building. You can take a very interesting selfie. You can do what I always do. I wave hello to my evil twin. Hello, Liam! Bye, evil. That's enough. I'm fine. Now it also has the restaurant down below, as again they're trying to take as much advantage of the airspace as possible. Now 150 North Riverside, it was a feat accomplished by Get Partners Architectural Group. They finished 150 North Riverside, and after that they were like, okay friends, everything else that we do has to be like 10 times easier, right? Right? No, yeah, it was. Coming up right in front of us and over here to our left-hand side, this is the Bank of America building. The Bank of America building opened in 2020 during the height of COVID-19, very mindful, very demure about its illnesses and diseases. All surfaces are antimicrobial surfaces, and you can call your elevator via your phone. Very cool. Also notice that 30-foot setback in action, fourth floor and up are being held up by robotic chickadee, I guess, or tridents, whichever you prefer. And it has the Coffee Bistro down below, Coffee by the river. Now, coming up next though is my personal favorite part of the tour, because we are traveling back in time. All of the following buildings are in chronological order, and thank you, architecture gods. Because no, it was not on purpose, it just sort of happened that way, which makes it even cooler in my eyes at least. Welcome everybody into Art Deco Alley. Both buildings were built in 1929. Over to your left-hand side, we have the Civic Opera building. Notice her name on the side of it. Don't worry, we're going to talk about her later on. For now, let's focus over here to your right. This is the 2 North Riverside Plaza. 2 North Riverside Plaza was the home of the Chicago Daily News at the time, so the exterior of the building is a true nod to journalistic history, from the hieroglyphs all the way to the Bloomberg Press. That's what all those drawings are on the side of the building, right? Now the building is shaped like a sphinx, and that's on purpose. It is a nod to Egyptian discoveries that were happening at the time. And you have that 30-foot setback way before it was even a zoning law, so they were ahead of their time. Now, guess what else happened in the late 1920s and early 30s? The Great Depression, the stock market crashed, right? And so, coming up right in front of us and over here to our right-hand side, welcome to the 50s and the 60s with Gateway Center number 1 and Gateway Center number 2. Now they're called gateways as there are the gateways to Union Station. You'll be able to notice over there to your right-hand side a beautiful view of both Amtrak and Metro stations down below. Now you might look at these buildings and you might be thinking, Ludwig Mies van der Rohe, right? Did he design these as well because of the AMA Plaza? And the answer would be no. These are by SOM, Skidmore, Orleans, and Merrill. They have a lot of structure in the city, so I'll be doing my very best to point as many of them out. Now, these boxes are in fact black box, modernism, right? Now, they're known for their practicality. The more practical they are, the more beautiful they are. They're also cheap and repeatable architecture, which is why we have so many of them around our city. That quickly proved to be a problem though, because people would get confused with all the black boxes, and in the 1970s they said hello to a white box. Nah. Welcome everybody to the 1970s with Gateway Center number 3 and International Style. Now it is known as International Style because theoretically you could pluck the building up, put it anywhere else in the world, and the building will continue to make perfect sense. Which is to say that a lot of travelers at the time were sleeping inside of International Style buildings. They would wake up and they didn't know what part of the world they were in because all of the buildings looked exactly the same. I know, right? Now, after 30 plus years of all the boxes, they really got tired of that. And so, in the 1980s, we said hello to contextualism, coming up currently right in front of us and over here to our right-hand side. Gateway Center number 4. Now, notice how the curve of the building goes alongside with the curve of the Chicago River down below. The windows are blue and green as nods to the Chicago River below and the beautiful sky above. Gateway Center number 4 with contextualism, everybody. Same as the Trump Tower, yeah? Now, congratulations, friends. You've survived your travel back in time. Now, if you find yourselves lost, confused, or you don't know where you are, don't worry, my friends, because 300 South Wacker has your back. It has a giant 2-scale map of the Chicago River. That giant red brick up there says you are here. The owners found out that their building was just another black box building and that nobody was talking about it on their tours. They got really upset, the owners, and so they paid $800,000 to literally put themselves on the map. And hey, we can make fun of them all we want, but we're talking about it now, so I guess it worked. Yeah. Now, coming up though, right in front of us and over here to our right-hand side, for those of you who said you were Batman fans, right? Coming up currently right in front of us and to our right. From the film Dark Knight, this is Gotham City Bank, everybody. Guys, let me formally introduce you to the Old Main Post Office. Now, the Old Main Post Office is from 1932. Deep dark inset windows and long vertical lines that make the building seem a lot taller than it actually is. Once again, it is Art Deco style, everybody. Now, this building, when it opened as the largest post office in the world. Later on in 1996, the building was in fact abandoned. I know, right? Why? 2 reasons. 1, the internet. 2, a man, Jeff Bezos. So the building was abandoned. Later on, in 2016, they were like, okay, what if we just renovated the building? So we did. They finished the renovations in 2019, and it cost them $900 million. I know, right? To renovate the whole building. They did add a little cherry on top, and that's a rooftop patio. That patio includes a running track, a basketball court, a tennis court. And for those of you who get very bored during your lunch breaks, it also includes beekeeping. Guys, I don't know about the. I work here, not there. Who approved it? Why they're there? What? Not my monkey. Wait, what is it? Not my circus, not my monkeys? Yeah, no comments on these. That's a very good question. More later. But for now, we're going to put a pause about the buildings, and we're going to talk a little bit more about histories. Because all the way back in the 1800s, Chicago had about 100,000 people, and that's not a lot of people. Over then, in the 1900s, Chicago had 1 million people. That's a lot of people. And so for a fast-growing city, Chicago needed to grow the city just as fast. And so they did. But they built the city out of wood. Now, was that smart? No, because after a very long drowning fire broke out on October 8th of 1871, and if you're like, okay, Liam, where were the firefighters? The firefighters confidently drove to where they thought the fire started. So they confidently drove to the North Branch. Guess where the fire started? Yeah, here on the South Branch, that's correct. The firefighters were kind of useless. And if you're like, that's okay, Liam, because how about the river? It's water, wouldn't that help? You would assume so, right? But as I have said and hinted at many a times throughout this tour, the river was dirty, disgusting, so it did the exact opposite of what people had hoped it would do. The river actually worked as a huge accelerant. So all these things combined, along with winds about 30 miles per hour, fire tornadoes broke out, and they said that day fire walked on water, and it burned for 3 days, from October 8th to October 10th of 1871. It destroyed 3.3 square miles. 100,000 people were left homeless. 17,000 structures were completely devastated, and 300 people lost their lives. This is the story of the Great Chicago Fire. But how did it start, right? There are many, many rumors. But the story that the equivalent of TMZ at the time went with, because of the political climate and such. Yeah. How'd you know? They did. Yeah, they did blame an Irish woman by the name of Catherine O'Leary, but not Catherine O'Leary herself, because that would have been too easy. They blamed Catherine O'Leary's cow. Yeah, they blamed a cow. They reported that on October 8th of 1871, Catherine O'Leary's cow knocked over a lantern like this, what? Inside of Catherine O'Leary's barn, and then started the Great Chicago Fire. But is this true? No, because when the TMZ at the time were confronted with this information, they were like, who said that? Us? Oh, no, we never said that. Oh wait, no, we did say that, we did. You see, we just really needed an scapegoat, or I guess you can all call it an escape cow. Yeah, how did you know? You're psychic, what do you mean? Personally, I think it was a huge cowspiracy, okay? Yeah, the way that they made Catherine O'Leary huff it out of town. They really milked that situation when they probably should have just skimmed along. Like, I understand that the situation was very spotty, but they could have at least, just moved along. Guys, I told you the jokes are not going to get much better. Remember that? I said downhill? This is rock bottom. This is what I was referring to earlier on Wolf Point. The jokes are not going to get much better. They're going to get like 2% better. But not that much better. I broke you. I'm sorry. I had a person one time look at me and be like, Liam, how about a whole lot better? And I was like, no. Because I don't want to have any beef with you, so please. But hey, if any of you have any more cow puns that you would like for me to order during another tour, you can let me know during the break. I appreciate it. I understand that my jokes are utterly ridiculous. Don't worry, I'll hide. Okay, that's enough. Now, the Great Chicago Fire really did leave Chicago a blank slate. So architects and artists from around the world were looking at Chicago and being like, guys, what now? And after many conversations and deliberations, they decided that Chicago would be the place to host the 1893 World Fair, the World Columbian Exposition of 1893. And in it, they